Welcome, dear viewer, to your favorite program. This is Books and Nooks of Hope. I am your host, Pastor Philip Guy, and this season we bring you lots of books. We bring you so many guests who will be with us on studio just to share with us from their wealth of experiences on different aspects that we can learn from the various books that we'll be bringing to you on set. Today on studio, we have very, very important guests. And the first one that I have close to me is Tabitha Opio, a veteran literature evangelist who has been here with us before. She has served for a long time in this ministry, and she brings to us a wealth of experience. Tabitha, greet our viewer.
Thank you for having me. Hello, viewer.
Thank you so much. And the one who has joined us today for the first time is another veteran, strong, dynamic literature evangelist with a wealth of experience. This is none other than Mary Kigundu. Please greet our viewer.
Thank you for the welcome. Hello.
Thank you so much. These two have come to share with us from their wealth of experience in this ministry that has been a blessing to many people. And in this season, we are glad to have you watching, and we know that you are going to benefit from that which we will share with you. Mary, please, you could tell us a little bit about your background. How did you join this ministry? What blessings it has brought your way? Just tell us a little bit about your experience in Cole Potter Ministry.
Thank you very much, Pastor Guy. I must say that literature ministry has brought a lot of blessing in my life because it has enabled me fly, because I have met my purpose of interacting and meeting people in a personal level. And so literature ministry has basically brought in life inside me because I like to relate. I joined literature ministry like about 11 years ago because I thought it's an important mission to be able to take hope to where people are and to look at what is happening around us and to perhaps just bring in a little blink of righteousness and hope and joy in their lives through books. And the fact that books linger longer than any other words that can be put on a pulpit or anywhere else. There'll always be something for you to refer. And so literature ministry brings in life, it brings in hope. It enables me to just be me and do my own things as me and just put me in a state of reading and understanding God's word and the books that are always in my hand.
Wow, that's important. 11 years of visiting with people, bringing hope, bringing encouragement, and helping them in their spiritual life. Yeah. That's quite something. That's awesome. What about you, Tabitha? Has it been 11 years or shorter or longer? And what has been your experience?
Mine has been a little shorter. I have been in the ministry for 9 years. But I have to say God has a sense of humor because I was that person who never would take a book and read. Yes. But we say, you know, this is God's business. I would never read. But when I got into the ministry, I started reading. I started reading for others, you know. You know, when you're in the ministry, you want to talk to people about stuff to encourage them.
Yes.
But later on, I realized that it has to start with me. So I started reading and encouraging myself. And this has also made me really grow. And just like Mary said, it has also opened doors for me.
Wow.
I have met big people. I don't want to say small people, everybody's equal, but it has also made me, you know, meet people and, you know, bring hope to myself and to other people.
Thank you so much. So you meet different people across the board, big people, small people, mid-sized people, everybody.
Yeah. Perhaps the who is who.
The who is who.
Exactly, exactly.
That's very interesting. And that's interesting. You go out there to help people, and yet you end up being helped yourself in this ministry.
Right.
Now, tell me, when you go out to meet people there, they have various challenges, of course, health challenges, relationship challenges. What are the relationship challenges that you meet out there, Mary? People are struggling. People are trying to find ways. Young people, young men, young women. What are the struggles that they have with relationships?
I think one of the basic problem that parents especially have is the growing up of their young children who are turning into adulthood. Just to handle the teen and then into adulthood. And of course that means teen starts very early.
Yes.
I think during our time, I'm not too old, but teenagers started being teens as early as perhaps later, like 14-year-olds.
Right, right.
But today, the teens are starting up from like 7.
I know.
So there's quite a lot of challenge. The parents are confused. They really don't know whether this is teenage, or is it tradition, or is it technology, or is it how life is just revolving. So I find that parents are struggling with their teen, and mostly the adult youth within their home.
I like
and
that.
the challenges are basically those of dating, as in they have crashes. As early as 13, 14, a child is busy thinking of some boy.
Right.
Or when they get to 18, they are busy thinking how they need to start dating. And so being a parent of that older generation, that wasn't the norm. The norm was finish school, then think of boys.
And here
or
they
girls.
are thinking about it, and yet they're still in school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I find that very interesting, the phrase, during our times. Right. And each generation keeps talking about during our time. I don't know whether we are spiraling down. I don't know what's happening, you know, during my time.
Yeah.
We never used to ban schools.
Right.
And here today we find students banning schools all over in Kenya. It starts from this school, then goes to this one, and then it spirals all around.
I think...
Tabi, what was happening during your time?
During, I don't want to say naive. Naive, I'd be putting ourselves down. Maybe there's a little bit of being naive during our time. But right now, social media, a child who is even as young as 5 years can access your phone and, you know, check a lot of stuff that is going on all over the world.
Yes.
That means I could be here in Kenya, but I know everything that is happening in the US or Uganda or whatever country. So with that influence, the peer pressure, it's, you know, you see things that are happening out of the country and you want to do them, not even understanding. Look at the dressing style. You find that, for example, in the US, people dress according to the weather. So if it's summer, people wear clothes that are fitting to the weather. But I come to Nairobi, I live in Nairobi where it is so cold, and I want to dress like somebody who is in the,
US in summer.
Or even somebody wants to go out in the clubs, you know. I think that is really cool, and I want to dress like that, not knowing that that person dressed like that because they are going out.
And I'm not going out, and I want to dress like someone going out to the club.
Because I want to fit in, you know. So that peer pressure is real.
So there is peer pressure leading us to behave in certain ways. Mary, you talked about beginning to do dating when they are still young. What really is the struggle that these young people are going through? From their teenage right into young adulthood, what's the problem?
I think one of the greatest problems, especially in today's world, is that parents are somewhat absent from the children's lives. And in their absence, there has been a lot of problems within the children. They feel unattended to.
Right, right.
They perhaps feel they are not good enough. Their self-esteem is not to a level where they feel good enough for anything. And with time, they step out into schools and they find people who would accept them as they are. And yet at home, there's all sorts of issues. One, you perhaps don't wash your dishes correct, so your mom is all over you. 2, you don't seem to keep rules anymore. 3, you don't keep your homework going. So before long, you start feeling like at home, things are not really correct. So you start accepting other friends out there who will influence you towards issues of maybe you're better off now here, I love you, I think of you, you're looking nice.
Negativity,
you know, a lot of all those positive things out there, and it's not there at home, and it sounds good. So you start feeling your self-esteem is not good at home, but when you step out there, they lift your self-esteem. And those are some of the things that start us off on dating, especially for young teens.
That's interesting. So the absent parent.
Yes.
Now, Tabitha, what book do you bring to us today, and why do you bring this book that will fit into the place of this absent parent?
This book called Smart Love by Nancy Van Pelt is the book to read. This is a book that has helped so many of the young children or young adults on how to date. Many times people think that when you're dating, you have to have money. Many times we think that when you have to date, we have to be a certain class, you know. So this book talks to us on how we can date the godly way. The godly way.
Okay.
And most people, when they hear the godly way, they think it's boring. No, it is not boring. So I think as we continue to understand this book, we will understand more why we need to read the book Smart Love.
So Mary, why do you think that this one will really step into that role of the absentee parent and fill the void that is in this young person, young woman, young man's life, and help them deal with the self-esteem issues? Why is this so important to them?
I feel they are very lucky. Some of us never got to read such books.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges I imagine that when a parent sees Smart Love, for them, they even start thinking like, is there anything Smart Love? And at what point do we even start?
Right.
So I think the book helps the parents to start with, that they can actually understand why dating is important for their children, depending with their ages. And number two, they'll also understand why they need to be part and parcel of their children's lives so that they can understand why they should date correctly as God expects of us. And so when you do Smart Love, the first part, especially when it comes to this book, it talks about loving me. So the parents will be involved in teaching their children or their young adults why they need to love themselves. And loving themselves means their self-esteem is to a certain level. And so even as the boys are talking to them or the girls are talking to them out there, they are kind of knowing that I'm worthy.
Okay.
I am okay. I'm a whole number. So even if you come on board, I can still find ways of listening and handling you.
Okay.
So parents need to read books also so that they can understand how to help their young adults still at home in how they need to date.
So is this book for young people? Is it for parents? You've kept on talking about the important role that these parents play in the lives of their young people. Tabi, would you help us with that?
Sure. This book is not only for young adults, it's also for parents. Because as a young adult, you know the challenges that the young adults have. Some will say, and I'm sure the viewer at home will agree with me, will say, oh, you know what, my child will not even read this book. Now, if you as an adult, as a parent, will be able, as you read this book, you'll be able to also guide your young adult, because there are some challenges that they might not even be able to talk to you, but you see in them. So when you read, the author will explain everything in detail. So when you see your child having low self-esteem, how do you deal with that? When you see your child having peer pressure in the different areas, how do you deal with that? You'll be able to assist your child. So it is for both the parent and the adult, and the young adult. Yeah.
Now tell me more about this self-esteem. Mary already talked to us about loving myself.
Yes.
And a lot of young people seem to have this problem of, you know, they don't love themselves. They
Right.
don't feel appreciated. They don't feel worthy anymore.
Right.
How does loving myself come in the Smart Love?
You know, you cannot give something that you do not have. Now, self-esteem problems are there. We find that the young adults get into drinking, into smoking, into doing things that so that they can fit in.
Yes.
Yeah. So the book, the self-esteem, when you believe in yourself, it's apparent to make your child, the child believe in themselves. If I have a child and I keep on putting my child down, the child will not believe in themselves. So just like Mary mentioned, if, for example, I am the teen, I have been brought up to believe in myself. Know that even if it's the way I dress, whatever I have been given, it makes me whole. You know, there's nothing that I'm missing. Yes, so that I get it from a boy child. Okay. So that makes your self-esteem go up.
Mary, you talked to us about this a little earlier, that they need to understand that they are whole in themselves and there's nothing lacking in them. Is that right?
Yes, I did that, and one of the reasons why they think that way is because they have private pain.
Private?
You know, pain. Pain. One of the reasons why they don't feel complete is because they have private pain. Pain that you wouldn't know as a parent. Pain that they also perhaps are not aware of. And the pain perhaps comes because of the home setting, maybe dad and mom are not living together. Maybe when they go to school, they are bullied. Maybe when they go to school, they feel they are short or tall. I mean, they are struggling with all those painful issues.
Thank you, Mary, for bringing us to speed with the pain that young people are struggling with. And dear viewer, we come to the close of the first session of Books and Nooks of Hope, and we'll be right back after the break. And our guests today, Mary and Tabby, will be talking to us about issues to do with the breakup, issues to do with the touchy situations, issues to do with close encounters of different kinds, those dangerous close encounters. Just stay tuned and don't go away. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome, dear viewer, to your favorite program, Books and Nooks of Hope. I am your host, Pastor Philip Guy. And in this particular session, we are having our guest, Tabitha Opio and Mary Kigundu. These are two veteran literature evangelists, strong, dynamic personalities who have been out there helping many people with the difficult issues, especially through these special books. And just before we went to the break, we had Mary telling us about this pain that young adults have to go through. And Mary, could you please just get a little deeper into that? What is this pain that young people go through that hurts their self-esteem, that make them feel that they are not complete?
Thanks, Pastor. I should have known that was coming. There are quite a few things that make the young adult feel that, or rather hurt and have pain that is private, that sometimes is not mentioned to other people. And one of the problem is having low self-concept. You feel unworthy. And because you feel unworthy, one, because of the way you look at yourself at the mirror and you don't think you're beautiful. You look at yourself at the mirror, if you're a boy, you feel you don't have enough muscle. And the media is saying muscle is what is macho.
That's what makes you macho.
It's what makes you man, you know? And so if you're a small framed young man, you feel you're not good enough. So your self-worth is kind of dropped. And so that becomes pain. For the young woman, you look at yourself at the mirror and you think your hair is short, you're plumpy, and the media is saying thin is beautiful. So those are the kind of things that bring pain to our young adults. And when you get this pain, it now draws you to bad dating habits, because that's what smart love is all about. How do we keep away from bad habits of dating, and how can we do it smartly? So that private pain must be addressed. And that is also what takes us to choosing wrong dating partners, because then we want to feel uplifted, we want to feel beautiful. And when you want to look beautiful, then you'll go to a young man who, or rather you will be easily accessible to people who will make you feel better. And that's why you find you'll be asked out, you'll be touched, and you'll feel perhaps it's a good thing. And then that kind of lifts your self-esteem. You start feeling, actually, I can deal with this. But you actually haven't dealt with it. It continues growing to something bigger.
I think what Mary is saying is you end up doing the wrong things so that you get attention. You end up doing the wrong things to be loved. You understand? Because you want to fit in. So that is what this young adult is going through.
And Mary had told us earlier, they do not feel loved at home. And so they find it elsewhere. And what they actually get there is not real love.
It is not. It is not. It is not.
And so what do we tell parents? How do parents handle such young people going through such situations?
Number one, communication. Communication is good. And you bond with your child. Yes. How do you bond with your child? Making time for your child or with your child. Many parents, just like she mentioned, are absentee parents. They're so busy making money, but their kids are not there. So number one, as a dear viewer, it is important to bond with your child. Communicate. What is it? What is it that you're going through? What are your challenges? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? And then you'll be able to know what the child is going through.
Okay, if we go a little deeper into this smart love, I know Nancy Van Pelt talks about breaking up. You know, some of our young people are caught up in this relationship. He or she has realized that this is going nowhere, and they feel like enmeshed, and they cannot get out of it. How do they emancipate themselves out of this wrong relationship that they've actually already gotten into, Mary?
This is a tough one because when you're dealing with something just for you, the only solution, and I pray that these young adults are perhaps coming from Christian homes,
Yes.
that they can find peace and love in Jesus Christ. Because some of this pain, parents don't even seem to understand.
Okay.
Where are you coming from? What is your problem? I've provided school fees. I've provided everything. When you ask for that dress, I give you. So what are really your issues? But I have found out that if young adults find solace in the Lord, they are able to find other new ways of dealing with their boredom, because those are some of the other things that take them to those relationships. That you find space and peace in a church. Find friends who love Jesus. And slowly with that interaction, you'll start understanding who God is and how God can help you deal with that pain. Because the pain can be, you have perhaps had sex, you have perhaps
gotten into marijuana,
gotten into you know, drugs.
Drugs.
You've taken things you shouldn't have taken because you still want to feel self-worth.
Right.
Yes.
So for you as an adult, a young adult, the only solution I see is that Christ needs to come on board so that he can fill that vacuum and help you deal with the issues that you have come through. And of course, breakups will also bring a lot of problems, Pastor. It means you'll be hopping from one person to another. And so that brings pain and a lot of...
You carry a lot of pain from one relationship to another.
Yes, a lot of damage.
But there's some, you know, Mary says correctly that we wish they would just be coming from Christian homes.
Yes.
But sometimes it's this Christian who has gotten hooked into a relationship with someone who is not from a Christian home. And they really need to break from this yoke that is leading them off into, you know, into a wrong direction. Tabby, how do we help such situations to lead them into a good breakup where they'll be safe, they'll feel still okay, and yet they feel that they have to break up from this situation?
I think if, in the first place, I always encourage young adults to date. Yes.
I like that.
I always
you encourage them to date.
Yes, yes. I have a 21-year-old boy and I always encourage him to date. Because it's healthy.
Yes.
But now, if you date with the wrong intention, that is wrong. I always
First,
tell
if
them,
you date with the wrong intention.
Exactly. It is wrong. I always tell him, if his #1 agenda is sex, then he's wrong. And that is why you end up, if, for example, you have a breakup, you end up being depressed. Some even kill each other.
Yes, yes.
But if your goal, for instance, is, for example, you have a common hobby, maybe you love to read, you love to watch sports, it's different. So I always encourage them that even if you're dating, because I know a parent will not agree with me, say, oh, you know, my child is young, but they do this behind our back.
Yes.
Yes, they do this.
So it's better you allow them to do it.
Yes, talk to them. Talk to them and tell them, hey, you know what, these are the consequences. Yes. So when you talk to your child, when you talk to a young adult about the consequences of breaking up, because you are going to definitely see, when a young adult has broken up, is that right? Broken up with a friend. There's so many signs that you're going to see. You're going to see some withdrawal. Yes. So you as a parent should be smart enough so that when you see your child has started withdrawing, what happens? How are you supposed to deal with that? So when there's withdrawal, you need to sit down with your child or with a young adult and talk to them. And then, you know, tell them, hey, it's not the end of the road. It's not the, you know, we used to be told like, hey, you know, when you're in high school, you started dating and you're thinking, this is the man that will marry me. But shock on you, you get married to
totally
somebody who is
person.
even 10 years older than you.
Okay.
Yes, so when you're dating, you think, oh yeah, this is it.
Mary, I hope you got married to a 10-year-old.
I like what Tabia said. Involvement. You know,
Yes.
once the adult is involved with a parent, that they know you're already seeing someone, then the parent steps in to help you when they start seeing those danger points. You know, the withdrawals and all that. And I like what Smart Love says, that you can actually break up in class, in style.
Tell us more about that. How does Smart Love talk about
I think we need
breaking
to tell
up?
you the book.
I'll gladly take and devour that book.
You know, so it says that before you break up, you can actually pray about it. It takes you back to, like, you're not the only person dealing with this. You can pray. Get help from a superior being, who is God in this case. You can seek advice from your parents. Why are you thinking of breaking up? What are the issues that have come up in that relationship that needs you to break up? So you've involved your parents, and so you can do it nicely. It doesn't have to bring in so much pain because you had already started correctly.
Yes.
All right.
And then when you're dating, there's always something good about this other person. True. It's not always the bad side. There's always something good about this other person. That is breaking with class. Yes, even though I'm breaking with person X, but he's so prayerful.
You still have that respect.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that is breaking up with class.
Now, Mary, Tabby just told us he has a 21-year-old. I don't know how old are yours. And if you tell us that, you could also tell us about these touchy situations. Sometimes these young people get into these touchy situations, and how do you help them in that kind of scenario? Maybe they need to know the signs then that would lead to an unnecessary breakup from this relationship.
My children are turning 23 in February, and they are girls.
Oh, beautiful.
And beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
So you can imagine the boys around them, they are struggling also with how to handle the beauty. And I think one of the problems with the young adult is that the boys see. And when they see, they want action because they want to feel, like we said earlier, that when you conquer, when you speak to someone and they are accepting you,
you feel good.
You feel good about it.
Definitely.
And so the young adult who is a young girl, she wants to also keep her dignity, especially if you've raised them through Christ. And they understand that you can't get involved in a relationship that is pressuring you for sex. And so the arm's length is there's no sex before marriage, because then you've trained them that way. So when their relationship becomes too specialized, then you get into trouble. And so that would be one of my advices to the young girls, that when you specialize in your relationship, then that speciality brings you to a lot of things that will be touchy.
What do you mean by
specializing? Means that I have taken you out for a date, and it's just you I talk to, nobody else. We meet in church and I just want to sit next to you. We are out there for social, I'm just there. So you've really specialized and you've singled out everybody else, and you've kind of said, this is my guy,
and that's not healthy.
And that's not healthy.
Okay.
So with time, that speciality pushes you to touchy situations.
Another touchy situation is the threat. You're dating somebody and they want to threaten you. You know what? Even if I don't date you, I'm going to date somebody else. There's so many. Yes, we've been there.
That's not a good one.
I know. You're threatened and you're thinking, oh, poor me.
So you just give in to be touched anyhow because he threatens to leave.
After all, there's C, D, and E.
Why don't you tell him to leave and go?
I know. No, because that time you're feeling like you cannot. You don't even have the not even words. But you feel that you don't deserve. He doesn't deserve you, or he doesn't. I don't know which is.
But Tabby, this young man has to have the authority to say no. This is the arm's length, and this far I cannot go.
And that is where the self-esteem comes in.
Okay.
Yes. If the self-esteem is down, they won't even have the strength to tell you, hey, you know what? There are many others. Go ahead.
They must draw the line.
They must draw the line.
They must know what is flattery, what is genuine. Where is this gentleman taking me? Is it proper? And always you'll feel the flags.
So Mary, tell us what you already mentioned about abstinence. What does Smart Love tell us about this situation of abstinence, just to abstain from sex, especially in the lives of these young adults? Otherwise it would bring them into pain that Tabitha had already talked about.
Abstinence, of course, is sex before marriage. And just to take you back a little bit, when we are parenting, for example, talking about marriage to our children, it's important, and that's what Smart Love is saying, that we must teach our children that the only way to get into a proper, solid marriage relationship is through a proper format. So that then you come, ask my hand out, ask my daughter from me, take her, or vice versa. And once you've taken them into marriage, then you'll maintain a certain respect. And of course that means when you have abstained from sexual relationships before marriage, it gives you some worthiness, like Tabby was saying about self-esteem. So abstinence is key, because if you get into relationships and you have opened many files, your marriage becomes very troubled.
Thank you, Mary. So can you tell us a little bit more about this abstinence? Maybe that would help these young people to know what are the boundaries that they need to keep.
Okay, thank you, Pastor. Abstinence before marriage basically help us deal with unnecessary breakups. Yeah. Because we've been talking about breakups, and some of the breakups come along because we have not used abstinence in our relationships. The other thing is it helps us deal with divorce issues. And that's what I was saying about opening files.
Yes.
Because when you're younger and you haven't gone into marriage, you open several files with different boys or girls.
Yes.
And so as you're going into marriage, you have already a history of what happens in there. And so there's the comparing issue in between the two of you. This is not a good enough gentleman. This is not a good enough husband. I should have perhaps stayed with someone else or tried the other person. So abstinence is important for us to be able to keep clear, so that we are able to keep our marriages safe from divorce.
It also helps in preventing STDs, you know, sexually transmitted.
Very important.
Yeah, and pregnancy too, you know. Yeah, because you're just engaging in sex with each and every person. You do not know what kind of condition that person is. And you can also, you're also in danger of getting cervical cancer as a woman when you have many sexual partners. So it's always important to abstain.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear viewer. This is Books and Nooks, and today we have had very wonderful guests on studio. Our sister Mary Kigundu and our sister Tabitha Opio. They've been bringing us to speed on this special book called Smart Love. I do hope that you'll get yourself a copy, devour and enjoy this book as you get the experiences that have been shared with us through this book, Smart Love. Looking forward to see you in the next episode of Books and Nooks of Hope. I am your host, Philip Guy.